right, testing. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Let's get the platforms. You know how we do it. Let's get it all set up here. Let me just share everything out really quick, and we'll get the party started. Happy Monday. Happy St. Patrick's Day. All that good. All right, good. Facebook, we're good. Let me just share it out. Let's go over to LinkedIn. We're live Monday through Friday on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on YouTube. That's the three platforms in which you will see me regularly. LinkedIn, we're good. Happy St. Patrick's Day. All right. And let me just check YouTube real quick to make sure we're all good to go. And you see what we're talking about today. We are here for another Monday. Make Your Move Monday Kickoff Question. Systems, folks. They have absolutely have saved my life. The whole concept of developing systems, working those systems, and allowing the system to work harder than you. That is some sage advice that I was given by a business mentor of mine that I feel obligated to pass along. Whenever things go right, like this morning, and I'm going to play today's Move Swiftly Thought, like when this morning was going on and I got caught in the rain during my run, I had to depend on a system or something in which I know I'm going to be talking about whenever stuff goes left, and things aren't going according to plan. If your systems are not intact, you will run into a problem. All right. So before I get started on today's topic, let me just introduce myself to anybody that may be new to my world. My name is Aswan Crookshank. I am your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time, soon to be 6-time published author. And what I do, what I created, what the whole Move Swiftly brand is all about is taking the teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field and aligning them with businesses so they have a staff, they have a group of employees that has the eagerness, the hungerness, the productivity, the cohesion of a championship high school or youth football team. That's what we do around here, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Speaking of that, right now recording this, it's day after Selection Sunday, and I'm hearing all the college basketball stories. Shout out to the Michigan Wolverines for winning the Big Ten tournament. Even though when we're talking basketball, I roll with Maryland and I roll with Georgetown, and they beat my Maryland Terrapins on their way to a Big Ten championship. It is pretty cool to see that maize and blue with Big Ten tournament championship after just a month ago, 2 months ago, Ohio State winning their stuff. But now the maize and blue is back where they need to be in that championship seat. I get it's not their same sport, but still it's pretty cool to see that. But the reason I brought it up is because when you look at how long Duke has been a dominant basketball program, I remember watching, it was a documentary in which they were talking about the Duke basketball program, what they're all about. And they have it set up where Coach K has it set up where the Duke basketball court is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can go in there whenever, work your game, work on some of your moves, get some shots up, just get better. That's why you see every single year Duke basketball being the culture, having the culture that they have year in and year out. It's because they have a system in place to where, look, that practice facility is always open. So you can make the decision on going to the club, or you can make the decision of going in the court, working on some of your moves, getting some drills right, just getting yourself better overall as a basketball player. That's why they have the standard that they have among the athletes that they bring in. All right. So before I get too into the topic today, let me just get through a few announcements and what we're going to actually do today, because it was still kind of a late morning. Because I got caught in the rain during the run and I had to kind of run around. I hate rushing. That's why I wake up. I like to move very, very early in the mornings. So I had to rush to get here and I was kind of all over the place. What we're going to actually do is I'm going to play the Move Swiftly Thought I Have on the Topic, the video that I just put out because I haven't seen it yet. And I'm also going to be playing the article that I wrote about this particular topic. I wrote this article yesterday. It's going to be the first time that I'm reading it live and reacting to it. So we're basically going to, pose the question, what is the difference between an artist and a performer? Obviously, we know the difference of it, but then the question becomes, how do we establish now the right mix of it in our business and in our lives and in our worldview, and how we teach it the right way to where everyone's getting a mix of both. All right. So that is what we'll be diving into today. Like I said, before we do, however, let's get through some announcements. First things first. If you are in the West Palm Beach area and you are interested in free boxing lessons, you heard me correctly, free boxing lessons. We had an unbelievable time this past Saturday. Man, we had folks coming out for the first time. In fact, there was one guy, he was a little late, and I had to teach him some of that jab cross stuff early, in a quicker fashion. And we were just, matter of fact, you know what? Why, Aswan? Why am I talking about it when I could just show you? I'm gonna show you guys real quick. I didn't plan on doing this, but now that I got some footage, I'm gonna show you guys. I'm going to show you guys what we did this past Saturday. I didn't mean to do that. Go back. Hold on. Let me just show you all. I'm going to show you all. Hold on, really, really quick. It's like, why am I talking about it? And I could just show you all. Let me do it really, really quick. I did not plan on doing this, but I have to do it because I want to give you guys an understanding of how we get down on the Saturdays. So. Here it is.
As someone who learned English as a second language, writing has always been something that I feel a little bit self-conscious of. That's why I've been using.
All right. There we go. All right. That's what we did. This is what we did. Let me get through the announcement. So basically, this is what we're doing on our Saturdays. If you are interested in that, simply hit this QR code right here and go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. That's freeguide.makeyourmove.com. Have people, it doesn't matter. And as we get more people showing up, I'll probably do different times. But as you can see, you have people on the cones, and then a couple. I'll be kind of calling certain people out as we, learn the myths. And it doesn't matter what level of boxing that you're at. We're here to serve all of you all. All right. So again, it's freeboxing.makeyourmove.com if you are interested in that. So next thing, like I mentioned, business owners, if you are sick and tired of the turnover, you're sick and tired of continuously having to replace employees, having to replace folks, and you're tired of not having a solid system towards making it so the people that you do have a purpose, have a sense of identity, know exactly what's expected of them on a day-to-day basis, and how you are able to align the things that you want as a business owner and the things that they're hoping to get out of the opportunity that you have given them. I need you to go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. I created it's a system, it's 10 bullet points, but it's a system in which you can start utilizing these things right now. That's going to lead to a reduced amount of turnover. That is what you want. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that all turnover is bad, because there's some people that you just got to get up out of there. Trust me, I know. There's some people that you just got to straight up get out of there because they're not fitting the overall culture of what you're trying to do. They're making it all about them. They're not thinking about necessarily what's best for the overall group. They're always making it about themselves. I understand that. And it's important that you figure out a system that's going to weed these people out of your system and out of your processes. All right. freeguide.makeyourmove.com. And also Patreon. Tap into the Patreon link, patreon.com/as140. That's as144. We have preseason, regular season, and postseason. Now, all of that is available right here on makeyourmove.com. That's makeyaMove.com. You can shop, you can join the Patreon, you can book me to speak, and you can learn. You just want to learn who this As1 Crookshank guy is. You can just learn more about me all on makeyourmove.com. Okay, let's get into this. Let's get into today's Make Your Move Kickoff Question. The difference between an artist and a performer. Now, matter of fact, you know what? Let me just play. I'm going to play the Move Swiftly thought because I haven't listened to it yet. I haven't listened to myself yet. I literally just posted this. So I'm going to play it. And then as I play it, I'm going to listen. I'm going to go reread the article, or I'm going to allow the article that came out today. I'm going to let that play, and then I'll address everything I need to address from this. So this is almost going to be like a self-evaluating episode as well. So go. Take it away, Aswan.
Aswan Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking in for a daily Move Swiftly thought, giving you a perspective on teamwork you will not get anywhere else. Whew. Had to deal with some adversity on this one. Still got the 6 miles done, 2 miles more than I'd initially planned on doing. Probably should have stayed with the 4 mile run. Seeing that, I knew the rain was coming. I wasn't sure if it was going to get me. Out here, South Florida, you really never know. It start off nice, everything's cool, and then, a couple minutes later, you get poured on, and now, as you can see, it sort of stops. So, still got what I need to get done. And today, I gotta make today's Move Swiftly thought somewhat quick. Seeing that I'll be doing a deeper dive on. It's Monday, by the way. Happy St. Patrick's Day and all that good stuff. Monday, March 17, 2025. And what we do over here is we do something called a Make Your Move Kickoff Question. And I got to make it quick today, but I'll be doing a deeper dive on the question in about an hour, for less than an hour from now, actually, on the live stream. I'll probably actually know what I'll do. I'll just play this during the live stream. So it's all out there. It's all out there in one final full swoop. That's what we work to do when you're in business, when you're working for yourself and you're building a brand. It's really all about taking everything and trying to minimize the process so it's quick, it's swift. Point intended, intentional plug there. It's quick, it's swift, and it just moves in cohesion. That's what it's all about, moving in cohesion. All right. So, as far as today's Move Swiftly thought, Make Your Move Kickoff Question, /Make Your Move Kickoff Question. The question is, what is the difference between being a performer and being an artist? Now, this entire week, as I normally do whenever I come up with a kickoff question, entire week we'll be touching on the concept of the Make Your Move Kickoff Question. That's why it is a kickoff question. So just understand that, again, the question is, what is the difference between a performer and an artist? All right, a performer and an artist, and I'll give a full scale definition of all that kind of stuff in a little bit, but just know you need to have both elements. You need to have both elements within your world. You need to have both elements within your mindset. You need to have both elements within your business, because, when you're a performer, that's what's going to keep the people showing up. And it's the people that are showing up. It's the people that are regularly tuning in and regularly buying your stuff. That's what, that's what's going to make it so you are a better artist, because you can get feedback. You can figure out how to do this better, work hard, really perfect your craft, and do things that are going to be beneficial and conducive to your development, whether you're talking about development as a person or development as an organization. All right. So one more time, real quick, kickoff question, Make Your Move Monday kickoff question. What is the difference between an artist and a performer? And the answer is, one is about, catering to an audience and making sure an audience is still showing up. And the other one is about actually having some substance and actually having some skill to actually do something. All right. So all that being said, main website to check.
All right, cool. And so that was the video, the quick video I did on it this morning. And now this is the article. This is the article that is out on medium.com as we speak. It got published 4 hours ago, as you can see. But it's so basically the way, real quick, let me just kind of give you some idea of how my system works and how I'm able to consistently put out the content that I do. Is I spend a couple hours every weekend really thinking about what I want the week's theme to be. And then I allow myself to sit down and write these things out. I actually put them down on a Google Doc. I have it written down where I start to really figure out how I can address these things as I communicate these ideas that are in my head and get them down on paper. And then once I get like, long messages or just have notes available, then I'm able to really put an article together. And now the advice I was actually given live, I was given this advice live by the founder of a company named Insight. Shout out to my guy, Jim Jacobs. He was telling me how he uses ChatGPT. And if you pay for the ChatGPT, I think it's like $40 a month or something like that, you're able to chat with ChatGPT and say, hey, how can you self-correct me? How can you help me turn what I have written? How can you help edit it and stuff like that? So that's why now I'm in the process actually of writing book number 6, and I'm using ChatGPT as the same way I used my editor when I actually pay like the editor that I paid for when I had to proofread this. I actually paid for an editor and publisher. Like all of these, I actually had to pay someone to reread my stuff and have fresh eyes on it. Now you can write out your full article and then put it in ChatGPT and say, okay, give me some feedback. What needs to be different? How do you turn this into that? And that's why now the system, folks, system is, in fact, that might be, because I find myself saying it very frequently today, is that might be next week's overall theme, is understanding that the more you can focus on your systems and allow your systems to be the things that work harder than you're working, the better off you're going to be in the long haul. All right. So let me play this article. It's the first time I'm going to be hearing it read out loud, but I read it by myself, but I didn't read it out loud, listening to it. So let's play it, and then we're going to go from there. Whew. Are you an artist or a performer? Go.
Are you an artist or a performer? Why you need to be both. It's Monday. Let's get moving.
Let's go.
At Move Swift Plus Live Sports Marketing, Mondays are all about kicking off the week with a thought-provoking question. We call it the Make You Move Monday Kickoff Question, a question designed to push you out of your comfort zone and challenge your perspective. Today's question: what is the difference between an artist and a performer? Let's break it down. Defining the two. Performer, a person who entertains an audience. Artist, a person skilled at a particular task or occupation.
Okay, real quick. I have to pause there. I have to pause. I can't. We have to talk about that. All right. So move swiftly. How I came up with the concept. All right. The acronym that Move Swiftly actually is. It stands for skilled workers. All right. Skilled workers, in which we all would love to be. Every single person out there would love to be in a situation where they're getting paid based on their skill, based on something that they're naturally gifted to do. All right. They're naturally a gifted sprinter. You're a naturally gifted welder. You're naturally gifted, and you're getting paid off that skill. You're getting paid as a plumber. You're getting paid as a cosmetologist. You're getting paid because you have an absolute gift. We'd all love that, right? However, the issue is, if, God forbid, something happens and that skill is no longer available to you, meaning if you're a sprinter, then if your ankle turns or your toe turns the wrong way, your knee gets hurt, something, now that skill is no longer available to you. Now you have to move in a direction where you're depending on something else. That's where WI comes in. Well-informed, Swift, WI, well-informed. And you have to depend on the information you have to put the right people in place. Those are our managers, right? Those are our coaches. Those are our people that are constantly trying to find the best folks to put on their team, all right? And whenever I do this workshop and whenever I explain swiftly to people, is eventually you should be moving every single person should be moving in a direction in which they are becoming well informed. They have the information, because it's the information that is powerful. You having the information is going to land you wherever it is you want to land, because you have the information. Information is power. All right. So as we move on from well-informed, now we have what I call the front team, those front team workers, those folks who, it's like in football, offensive and defensive linemen, you only really care about them when they're holding, or they're making a sack, or they're false starting. The folks that are, mopping the floors, cleaning glasses and cleaning bathrooms, the people doing the dirty work, fixing railroads, doing a bunch of stuff that makes life so much easier for folks, but they get absolutely no credit. That's the front team worker. That's what we call over here in the Move Swiftly world, as the front team worker. So we have Swift. The key is this is why you always see plus LY, Swiftly, meaning you are lifting yourself to be all three. If you can go back on the Move Swiftly podcast and listen to the first ever interview I did, it was with a teammate of mine. Shout out to the girl dad, my boy Taj. Congrats on that, boy. But if you go back to that first interview I ever did on the Move Swiftly podcast, he read the book Swiftly, and he was telling me, he feels like he's all three. And I wrote it with the intention of attracting folks who are all three, and they plan on bringing folks around them in which they're all three. They're skilled, they're well-informed, and they're front team, because you need all three. This topic, in terms of what we're discussing today, it is touching on that concept. Artistry, being a performer, how do we find a solid mix, all that kind of stuff. So when you look at the definition of the two, a person who entertains an audience and an artist who's actually has some substance, is actually good enough to do the damn job, right? You got to make sure you're breaking down exactly what you're getting in your employees, exactly what you're getting in your staff. Is this a person that's simply putting on a show for the customers, whether it's the parents, whether it's the kids? If you're working in MySpace and education, are you simply putting on a performance when their parents are around? Are you putting on a performance when administration's around, or are you actually good at the job you do? All right, there's a difference. There's a mix between artistry and performance, right? And again, you need both. I'm not telling you one is better than the other. I'm telling you both need to happen. You need to be able to perform, and you got to actually be good enough to do the damn job. You got to be actually good enough at the stuff. And this is true across all industries. Performer, artist. Keep that in your mind as you're going and developing your brands and developing your business. Performance or artist? What is the person? What exactly is the person? So I might have to, as we go for, because again, this article just got published, so I'm thinking back to yesterday when I actually wrote it, and a lot of the stuff is coming back. And when you're a writer, like initially, that's where the core of the work I do comes from, writing, where I was able to get a lot of stuff off my chest. Like I would just go and just write. So whenever I get the opportunity, and now with this Chat GPT, where I could, get some thoughts down and read them back to me and have that, it's a beautiful time to be alive. Anyway, let's keep going. Let's keep rolling.
The difference between an artist and a performer. Let's break it down. Defining the two. Performer, a person who entertains an audience. Artist, a person skilled at a particular task or occupation. On the surface, this might seem like a simple question, but let's go a little deeper. Which one are you? And more importantly, which one do you need to be in order to achieve your desired results? Why you need both? I came up with this question based on an experience I'll talk about later this week. But for now, let's focus on why you need a solid mix of both artistry and performance. As a business owner, entrepreneur, or creative, you need an audience to pay attention to your work. That's where the performer comes in. The one who can captivate, engage, and keep people locked in. Without performance, you might have great ideas, but no one will care enough to listen. But here's the flip side. Performance alone isn't enough. If all you do is perform without substance, your business, brand, or craft won't last long. You need to be an artist, someone with real skills, depth, and the ability to create something of value. If all you do is entertain, without bringing something real to the table, people will eventually see through the act.
All right, so let me break this down, because I want to make sure I'm making a point here. A company. All right, I'm gonna use the example of a company. All right, because as an athletic guy, as a guy that's in the sports, and I hate to kind of. I hate if this sounds like I'm trashing Nike too much, because I don't want to. I'm not intending on doing that. But I read this. It's a book titled "Running with Purpose." All right, the founder of Brooks Running Company, let me pull it up for you guys really here. Right, Jack Weber, yeah, founder of this. This is a great read for any runners, anybody that's into the athletic world, anybody that's into sports marketing and fitness marketing, the fitness business, and all that. This was an absolutely incredible read. All right, so it's Running with Purpose by a guy named Jim Weber, who founded the brand called Brooks Running Company. All right, let me see if I can pull it up. Pull up the Jim Weber. Yes, founder of Brooks Running Company. Great read. Great read. Again, strongly, this is it, right? Strongly recommend that you guys tune into his work. I think if I'm not mistaken, the forward was Warren Buffett. Yeah, Warren Buffett. Actually, let me just make sure I'm giving you guys factual information here, because it was Warren Buffett who actually did. Yep, there it is. Right. Warren Buffett did the forward to this book. And myself being a runner, I was really dived into this book. And I want to say it was probably one of the better books that I've actually read. Right. And the thing that, as I listened to him, and I listened to him on several keynotes and some of the work he does, and whenever I read a book, I always myself as an author, I'm always locked into some of their YouTube videos, some interviews that they've done. I'm always just trying to pick up something I'm not doing, something they're doing that's right, something I can get from somebody else when it comes to that stuff. I call myself a self-development junkie. Sometimes I can run into the issue of being a pig, which is it's also an acronym for a professional information gatherer, to where I'm gathering too much information, and without, again, systems, sometimes it can get in the way of me actually producing the stuff. And anyway, but I bring that up because he was talking a lot about the difference between Brooks and Nike, and he put the number out there in terms of Nike spends a huge. He put the money out. He put the number out there. I can't remember what the number is, but they put a huge number about how much they spent on marketing, versus how much they got on sales, versus how much Brooks spent in marketing, how much they got in sales. And you could see the numbers are completely different in terms of what Brooks put out in marketing versus their sales numbers, and what Nike put out in marketing versus their sales numbers. So I'll give you an example. Let's say Nike puts out a campaign and they spend $10 million on it, and their sales are 15 million, right? And let's say Brooks puts out a campaign and they only spend 5 million, and Brooks goes and makes 12 million from that campaign. Even though it was less sales numbers, Nike had more sales numbers, they spent more on marketing. And if they're and Brooks is maybe 3 million away, they spent less on marketing. If you look at the margins and you look at how much they spent versus how much they made, Brooks is all good. And those were the things that he was emphasizing in his book, to where he as the founder of the company started focusing strictly on running. And if you can see in the title, it says it in the title, how Brooks outpaced Goliath competitors to lead the pack. When he says Goliath competitors, he's referring to Nike. Again, go get the book, read it for yourself, and develop the knowledge. All right. So let me get through I swear we're going to get through the article. Trust me. We will get through the article. I promise you, I will let it play, because there are several things that I do want to make sure I touch on as we go forward. So
you need to be an artist, someone with real skills, depth, and the ability to create something of value. If all you do is entertain without bringing something real to the table, people will eventually see through the act. The secret to mastering both:
Exactly.
Teach. So, how do you develop the right mix of being both an artist and a performer? You teach. You teach and mold minds in a way that challenges them and pushes them beyond their comfort zone. You provide lessons that people won't forget. Let me share a quick story to drive this home, the lesson that changed my perspective. Back in middle school at Francis Scott Key in Silver Spring, Maryland, I went out for the track team. I ended up making it as a distance runner. Not because I was a natural runner, though I am now, running every morning and competing in half marathons, 5Ks and 10Ks, but because I was too slow for the sprints, foreshadowing at its finest. During tryouts, I had already secured a spot for the 800-meter race, which, by the way, I finished dead last in, and yeah, I cried like a little BTCH when I got home. But while watching others compete in the sprint events, my coach suddenly called me out. "Aswand, jump in." I hesitated, saying, "But I'm doing distance running." He doubled down. "Good. Jump in." I ran that sprint race even though it wasn't my thing. And years later, I became a first-team all-conference
Come on, talk your
linebacker
shit.
at Good
Talk your
Counsel
shit,
High
ass
School,
on.
Google it, and went on to play Division I college
Come
football.
on, man.
I'm not telling you this to brag. I'm telling you this to prove a point. If I hadn't stepped out of my comfort zone, if I hadn't been forced to perform, I would have never tapped into my natural abilities. Getting my ass kicked in that track meet made me more driven today, to run the miles I do, to push myself beyond limits, and to share my journey with others. Who are you teaching? This mindset is most effective when talking to the youth. The older someone gets, the harder it becomes to convince them to get uncomfortable and grow. So choose wisely who you pour your energy into. If you want success, whether in business, sports, or life, you must be both an artist and a performer. You need to create real value and know how to present it in a way that keeps people engaged. Master both, teach others, and most importantly, make your move.
Make your move, baby. All right. Man, that was something. Hold on, whoops. What did I do? All right, that was interesting to hear it read back. Let me get into let me address that story. So let me give that story some context, because I remember it vividly, and I remember writing it yesterday when I was thinking about how I was going to broach this topic, how I was going to teach this topic, how exactly was I going to teach people how to develop this mix. And from jump, you have to have the mindset of, I am looking to help the young people. All right. Because this what we're talking about, artists versus being a performer, when you have a person who is so stuck in their own ways, and they're so stuck in a way that they will not let it go, and you see it in them, you will not convince them any otherwise. You will not convince them to just change their ways. You're basically asking them to go back to their childhood and just start to relearn all the bullshit that they had to learn in the house, all the bullshit that their mother and father, whatever the situation was. And if they don't have the mindset, they're not open-minded enough to really ask themselves, how can I get better? How can I improve? Then you just got to simply move on. And unfortunately, that happens earlier and earlier on in life. All right. So as far as how you teach, so the question that's on the table is, what's the difference between an artist and a performer? And we know that we've already addressed that. All right. So now the question now becomes, how do I develop a solid mix of an artist and a performer? How do I develop a person? How does a person develop to the point in which their mindset is that of, okay, I know I got to perform, but I also know I need substance. I also know I need both in everything I do. How do I develop that? And you teach it, and you teach it hard. You teach hard lessons at earlier age, so they remember the feeling. All right. So back to the story that I was talking about when I was in middle school. I myself, in middle school, I was playing for a football program. And again, I've said this on multiple occasions. I'm going to repeat myself. I want to say it as often as I can, is that I made the mistake of only playing football growing up. All right. I made that mistake, which is why my career ended after college, and pretty much ended during college, because I would spend most of my time as a scout team player. All right. I would have been a much better player. I would have gone a lot further. I would have done a whole lot better as a player had I decided that I was going to play other sports. Had I decided that I was going to play some basketball. As I decided I was going to play a little soccer. I was going to do some boxing. I was going to do some track. I was going to do a little bit of everything. I would have developed as an athlete, even though I would have kept football as my number one thing. I know I would have been a whole lot better had I decided and stuck with other sports the same way I did with football. I say it all the time, and this is why my nephew already is better than I ever was. And I'm happy to say that. I'm happy to admit that, because the work I do now is all about developing young people, right? So it just so happened that during middle school, there was the PE department decided that they were going to have a track team for the school. It wasn't anything like being on a club team. It was pretty much just an after school activity. And, they were going to put the team together, and there was going to actually be a meet. I remember the meet was at Walter Johnson. I will never forget where this track meet was. It was at Walter Johnson High School, right? So we have the tryouts, and again, I'm not a natural athletic. This is why it was so hard. Like when I was in middle school, it was so hard to convince my peers that I was actually good at football because I had no athletic ability. I had no natural. You remember how I was talking about being skilled earlier? I had no like real speed, wasn't really strong like that, wasn't really athletic like that. Everything I got on the football field was all through work ethic, and I was just blessed enough to be around coaches that emphasized that work ethic element. I was blessed enough to have a father in the home that would always, show me what it was and to work hard and things like that. Blessed enough to have a mother that would work out with me and make sure I can outwork people, but I just natural athletic ability had none of it. All right. So, when it comes to evaluating track athletes, and I've heard this said by other folks who've been involved with track, it's like, look, you either got it or you don't, period. In fact, it was Bethel Anthony, shout out to Ant. I remember him saying this back when we were at Carson Newman, when we were talking about track. It was around this time of year. He goes, look, track is basically simple. It's either you got it or you don't. It's either you got it or you don't. It's either you running the race and you're fast enough or you're not. Period. So we were going through the track tryouts, and because a lot of people don't like doing distance, like being a runner and you're running distance and stuff like that. That's not something that's appealing to a lot of people because it takes stamina, it takes mindset, it takes a focus, and you actually have to really go a distance, right? So everybody wanted to be a sprinter. Everybody wanted to run the 100-meter and, be the guy, to be the person that's representing and all that, and be Mr. Speedster and all that kind of stuff, because it was quick, 10 seconds and you're done and you're not really that tired. So everybody was trying out for the 100-meter and being the sprinter. Now, again, I was just, wanting to be on the team, and I had the logic to know I wasn't going to be fast enough. So I decided to, I'm going to run the 800. I'm laughing because it's taken me back to that mindset, and the reason I decided to run, I didn't want to qualify. I was not a distance runner. I actually hated doing it because, again, as a football player, the more you run, that means you're in trouble. I mean, they're making you run because you're in trouble. They're teaching running as a punishment, right? So I decided to do it because, again, like I said in the article, I just wasn't fast enough to run the other stuff, and I wanted to, be a part of the team. And I wanted to do the thing that was going to make the most sense for me to make the team, right? So it's maybe just a few people running this 800 or even trying out to be the distance runner on the actual track team. So obviously I make it. I'm one of the few people that actually try it out. I was like, all right, you're on the team. ain't nobody else trying to run that distance stuff, man. So what happened was, it was after practice, and this was when the team was kind of already solidified and everything that was going on. And I make the team as the 800. I was going to run the 800. And for those of you who don't know, 800 is basically 2 laps. It's 2 laps around the track. So it's basically a half a mile. And that's, that's kind of a long, now it's crazy to think about it now. I just did 6 miles today, and 6 miles isn't, it really isn't shit to me at this point. But, back then, a half a mile was like a long thing. Now it's probably like a sprint for me. Right. And I'm bringing all this up not to necessarily brag, but to kind of show you what growth and development and artistry and performance, what that actually looks like and what it actually means. So I make the team as an 800 runner, and I remember it was after the practice, and they're still trying to figure out who the sprinter is, or they might have actually picked a sprinter and they're just, practicing their sprinting and all that, whatever it was. The details are fuzzy to me at this point. It's been, well over 20 years at this point. And so So, and that's me saying that actually brings me to the point of me bringing this up is even though this happened well over 20 years ago, I could recall certain elements of it. I can recall certain elements of it that have stuck with me, right? So I make the team as a distance runner. I'm, kind of locked in on that and figuring out how I can maybe, represent the school at the track meet or whatever it was. And I'm watching the sprinters do their workout, and the coach, he was also a teacher. His name was Mr. Young Pradit. The Young Pradit, Asian guy who also taught me in science. And you could tell he was one of the few male teachers, one of the guys that I look at now and kind of inspired by, because you don't get many male teachers that are gonna, get up in your butt a little bit, kick your ass, start challenging your pride a little bit. All the male teachers I had, especially when before I got to high school, actually, this is true, including high school, all the male teachers I had, I can tell you, I remember all of them because there was an element to a male teacher in like a female dominated industry that, you kind of remember when they MF you a little bit. They don't MF you they don't MF you because they're not allowed to actually say the curse word, but they still, the same MF feeling that you get when you get your ass cussed out by a football coach is the same feeling you get when a male teacher tells you to do something and they don't have to use curse words, right? But they can tell you to do it in a very stern manner, and your pride your pride starts hurting you a little bit. You start to feel a certain way when a man starts challenging you and stuff like that. So Mr. Young Pradit, even though he knew I was a distance runner, he's seeing this, or I was running with going to be running the meet with the distance team, the 800 or whatever. He's sitting there watching me watch. He's watching me watch the sprinters, and he looks at me. He goes, "Aswan, get up in there and do some of them sprints." And I look at him like, "Yeah, okay, but I'm the distance runner." He goes, "Aswan, get up there and do some sprints." And again, for me, at that point, now you start to challenge my manhood at this point. Now, again, even though I'm still a middle school kid, at this point, you start getting a little testy. And he's like, "Okay, so I do the sprint." And I remember that lesson. Because of how it challenged my comfort zone. I remember what he did because it challenged everything I do. All right. And it was simple. Morning. It was about, hey, I know you're a distance runner, but get your behind up in there and do the sprints. And you see 20 years later, I'm recalling that lesson simply because he pushed me out the comfort zone. Okay, now, granted, we get to the track meet and I get my behind whooped, get my ass kicked. Okay, and I'll tell you the story because it was Walter Johnson High School and it's the 800. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to roll. And I sprint out. I make the mistake of sprinting out for that first maybe 50 meters, right? Sprinting out and like, okay, bet. But it was too much of a sprint. Okay, not to say that I was just horrible at the 800 meter, but it was I blasted off, and I was way too fast in that 800 meter. If I would have, looking back on it now, if I would have just stayed with the pack for that first lap, then I would have had a little bit more at the end. But I sprinted out. I made the huge mistake of sprinting out in that first 800 meters. I mean, not the first 800, the first maybe 50 meters. I made the mistake of sprinting out. And by the time I got to the second lap, I was gassed. I come in dead last. And I hold it in. I hold in my tears on the bus ride. I hold him. And the thing is, so actually I didn't put this in the article. So what happened was there was some confusion in terms of where I was going to be after school. And my mother didn't know where I was after school. So I didn't tell her. So the bus had taken us to Walter Johnson High School and she didn't know. So by the time I actually made it home, I was a walker. I lived, my house was right near the school. So by the time we made it home, I see my mother and she's damn near in tears because she didn't know where I was. I didn't have a chance to call her. This was before the cell phone days and all that. So I didn't have a chance to call her. There was confusion about where I was after school. Then I finally go home and I let her know, yeah, my bad. I'm sorry, because you could tell that she was crying before because she didn't know where I was. And then by the time we kind of get all that stuff clarified, she looks at me and she goes, "All right, so how'd you do in the damn track meet?" I'm like, "Man, I got my ass kicked." It's so crazy. It is so crazy to think about recalling these things now. It's like, man, I got my behind whooped. And then I started crying. I think part of the reason I started crying was because I saw how broken up she was before, because I didn't let her know where I was after school. And, me and my mother have that type of connection to where when she feels a certain way about things, I feel like it's one of those things that we're able to understand each other in that way, in that same kind of dynamic, which is, again, what leads me to a lot of the work that I do now and the work I do with parents now. And all of that being said, all of that, probably one of the best things to ever happen to me. Probably one of the best things. When I really look at the countless experiences and countless lessons that sports and being involved with athletics has taught me, that experience in totality was amazing. If I can go back, I would probably ask to make it worse, like make me even slower, make it even worse, like, because that situation, knowing when you go out and you perform and you actually put your best foot forward and you fall flat on your face, knowing that, hey, there needs to also be some substance. You need to actually have some ability. Like, you need to actually go and run. And I'll kind of close you guys out with this concept. And here's the culmination. I'm literally just putting the pieces of the puzzle kind of in my head as I'm looking back on it now as a 36-year-old man. It was my mother who initially got me into running. It was my mother who initially got me into the kind of the fitness enthusiast that I am today. She was the one who initially taught me, hey, go out for a run, go get yourself better. I get you're a football guy, but, go take a run, get yourself better and all that kind of stuff. And because I was the football guy, I would always make the lazy excuse of, I don't feel like running, man, all that other bullshit that a lot of people do to this day, right? And when it started to hit me in school, it's like, okay, it's time to make your school's track team. And now you're going to be competing, representing your school. All of that, all of the ability to actually run an 800 and do it as fast as you can. All of the advice that my mother was giving me years before that, right? All of that started to make sense now, because now it's like, okay, it's time to perform. All right, it's time to perform. So you can put anyone out there to go attempt to perform, but without having the skill, without having the actual ability to do it, you will fall flat on your face, just like I did. You will fall flat on your face and you will watch other people just outwork you and kick your behind. Because I remember leading up to the track meet, obviously my mother was very excited to know that I was going to be in a track meet. And to be honest with you, she probably would have, easily, if she could have made it, probably would have been there. If she knew about it, she would have been the first one there, watching to see how I ran. In fact, I did actually join a track club, the Gideon Knights, during those middle school years and stuff like that. I remember the one time that I've seen my sister and my mother argue, like really get into a heated argument, was because my sister didn't join the track team at her high school. So, she's been a huge advocate for track and field, especially for young people, right? But again, that conversation and that difference between being a performer and an artist, all of that stuff comes through track. And this is why even to this day, whenever I talk to people who are in the youth sports and parents that want to get their kids active at something, I always initially tell them, look, track is the best thing to start. Give them that solid foundation of track and field, get them out there running around, get them out there, seeing where they can compete, seeing where they are, and then, they can go and develop in the other sports and all that kind of stuff, right? So anyway, the fact that I didn't have the ability, all right, I didn't have the actual artistry, I wasn't actually good enough, or I wasn't prepped on it, is why I fell flat on my face. Now, if you fast forward from that point to where I am now and what I did in high school, what I was able to accomplish in college, what I was able to do after I graduated in college, and, going out and taking runs on my own, and then, competing in 5Ks. Actually, I have the shirt. My girl is telling I got to do a wardrobe change, just met someone and she's been telling me I can't keep running around with these race shirts on and all that kind of stuff. But I'm that's a conversation for another day. But you know, the fact that nowadays I compete in these, you know, these races. I'm still actually training for a marathon, and I'm doing all these running events, and so much of my brand, so much of what I built, so much of everything that you see about me, my online presence, is stemming from this concept of running and concept of playing football, concept of continuously being active. I took the actual ability. I actually went and got myself better at the thing. And now I understood that there still needs to be a performance. There still needs to be an element. There still needs to be an audience for the work I'm doing. And that's how you develop that solid mix. And think about everything. I know I went on in a ton of different directions today, but when you think about everything I said and everything that was kind of brought in that one question, you know, the difference between an artist and performer, you got to understand the value in teaching. You got to understand the value of educating, and you got to understand the value of making sure you're teaching in a way, you're aligning and doing things in a way in which you're merging both of these things day in and day out. And you can't do it. You cannot. All right. I'm going to close. I'm going to drop the mic with this concept. All right. You cannot teach this unless you're living it yourself. I'm letting it sit. I'm letting it sit because I'm putting it down. I'm putting it on paper right now. I'm putting it down. You can't teach it. You cannot teach this stuff. You cannot teach having a solid mix of being an artist and a performer. You can't teach it unless you yourself are working it and doing it within your own mindset. You can't teach it unless you're living it, unless you're a living proof example of how to do it. And anybody can do it, no matter your age, but it takes getting out of your own head. It gets getting out of your own stubborn BS. It takes getting out of all about me, and what I want and what I'm all about, and start thinking about, how do I put some positivity? How do I make sure I'm listening and getting myself better in something, constantly getting myself better in something. That's why what we do here, the Plus LY, constantly lifting yourself, constantly figuring out how you can be skilled, well-informed, and front team, all three. That's what we do. All right. So all that being said, again, just to recap, we discussed the difference between being an artist and a performer. We know the difference. We know the definitions of the two. The question is how are we developing a solid mix of the two? If you want to dive deeper into everything I'm doing and have me actually come out to your business, come out to your company and host a workshop, or do a keynote, or do some things with your business, there's tons of ways I collab, primarily work with business owners that have 20 or more employees that really want this kind of culture in their organization, want this kind of system. Simply head over to makeyourmove.com. So makeyourmove.com. You can shop, you can pick up a copy of my books, join the Patreon, you can book me to speak, or just, again, simply learn more about me, or listen to the Move Swiftly podcast. All of that stuff is right there on makeyourmove.com. Everyone out there, you guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.